What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys. Super excited about our episode here today. We have a ton of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. Our first topic of the day is going to be talking about Ninja, guys, the larger-than-life gamer now who has absolutely taken the entire industry by storm, essentially, of course, because of his success on Fortnite, but also this guy has absolutely kind of captivated so many people and has become an idol for many of us in the streaming, space especially, but even on YouTube, because a lot of his success on Twitch has actually translated over to YouTube. And then of course his fallout or his move from Twitch to Mixer has absolutely changed the gaming landscape as we know it. And so I want to talk about what happened to Ninja as far as this guy who started off by playing competitive Halo and then moving into obviously, consistently a streamer, but becoming such a massive figure on Fortnite. Because I think, guys, if I remember correctly, Ninja started as obviously a Halo Pro gamer. So obviously, if you're a pro, one thing that you got to kind of keep in mind is that if you're a professional gamer, right, for any title out there, you obviously have a God-given ability to, whatever game it is that you're playing, you're pretty good at, especially that particular video game, but that most of the time will translate to other games, maybe in that same genre, whatever the case might be. With that being said, Ninja, of course, was a Halo Pro gamer. And then, of course, when he moved into Fortnite, it's still a shooter. Even though it was going from a first-person shooter in Halo to a third-person shooter in Fortnite, you still have that God-given ability. You have that, really that reaction time. You have all of those things, that the know-how to really get an advantage or have that advantage over your opponents. And Fortnite was no exception for Ninja. Now, obviously, I think Ninja was probably one of those players that he had a fan base, obviously in Halo, but when it came to Fortnite and he translated or moved over to Fortnite, it absolutely exploded because not only did he have a nice following from Halo, but also people seeing how good he was on Fortnite. And I mean, his grind was unreal, which I'll obviously give him mad props for with Fortnite. Just the sheer amount of hours that he put in. I've never seen any gamer to this day put in that kind of time and dedication like Ninja did. Now, obviously, there were players as time went on that became better than Ninja at Fortnite, okay? Obviously, he wasn't going to be like a pro Fortnite player. It was the fact, though, that he became the face of Fortnite from a content creator standpoint, and then, of course, just built on that success, right? I also give a lot of credit to his wife, Jessica, who absolutely, I believe, is the best manager in all of esports and gaming, period. Why? Because Ninja obviously had a ton of the success that he was able to do on his own, but his team that he has with him have got to be probably one of the best teams in all of gaming. Jessica obviously was able to, just the things that she's been able to do, whether those are the partnerships, sponsorships, all kinds of different kinds of deals that she's working on behind the scenes. Ninja's just playing the game and just grinding, putting in a ton of time. Obviously, he's doing other things outside of that, but I give a ton of credit not only to himself for how good he is as far as, his work ethic, but his team that he has with him as well. Because, man, he was able to play with Drake. He was able to play, with Juju Smith-Schuster from the Pittsburgh Steelers on Fortnite. Was able to get massive deals like going, to watching the ball drop on New Year's Eve and being a part of that. And so many different things, right? He's been able to do because of this. And now because he's such a huge figure in gaming, a bigger figure than we've ever seen before, when he made a move, leaving Twitch for Mixer, that created an effect, right? A ripple effect throughout all of esports and all of gaming that we as creators and as streamers have a voice. And I'll tell you what I'll compare it to. I'll compare it to LeBron James, right? LeBron was in Cleveland, okay? Was drafted by Cleveland, and then he ended up going to Miami, the Miami Heat. He wanted to win, obviously, and he didn't have a good enough team around him in Cleveland, especially against some of the competition that was in the Western Conference. And then he moved over to, obviously, the Miami Heat. And from there, he decided to go back to Cleveland to win a championship, and now he's in LA. So why am I comparing these two things? Well, LeBron James doing that actually created ripple effects throughout the entire NBA that we as players, as you know, as an NBA player, each person can kind of take hold of their legacy, of their destiny, so to speak, and can kind of do what it is. You have the power to do what it is that you want, and I think it's changed the NBA forever. What LeBron did has changed the NBA and has created super teams. It's created, big threes, big two teams, and it has made this, it's created this dynamic where it's not always going to be the exact same teams in the finals forever. It's not going to be, it changes things, right? And now those players can take their own destiny, their own legacy into their own hands and do what it is that they want with that because they have the power to do it. What Ninja did was he created this work ethic. And when he moved from Twitch to Mixer, what that did though was it showed that, look, we as streamers and gamers and content creators, we have the power to do what it is that we want. Like, you don't have to stay on Twitch to be a streamer. You can go to other, a different platform. You have a marketing power to you. Now, obviously, guys, right now, it's going to be the biggest of the big streamers, without a doubt, obviously. Getting the big deals from like Twitch, from Mixer, from YouTube. However, even what this is going to do is this is going to send ripple effects for the rest of time now in gaming, because now let's say someone starts to grow on Twitch or grows on YouTube, they may get offers from some of these other platforms, or they might get offered, a nice significant deal from the platform they're currently on, and they're going to have those choices, and really we're able to take our destiny and our legacies into our own hands now. And that's what Ninja did. And he showed everyone that you can do that. And guess what happened right when Ninja did it? It's kind of like what happened when LeBron left Cleveland the first time to go to Miami. We start seeing a lot of movement in the league. You're seeing a lot of movement now in gaming. It's changing. Things are changing, but in a good way. These are all great things, and I think what happened to Ninja and what he's done for gaming is unbelievable. It's incredible. What I think LeBron did for basketball, I think is incredible and probably will be known as one of his greatest accomplishments. I think what Ninja's done for gamers, we might not really realize it right now, but down the road, we're going to see exactly what this has created now. This has created the power to the players, the power to the creators and, the streamers. And that's a very good thing to have, because now Twitch and Mixer and YouTube, they can't get complacent. They have to, they are at war with one another, trying to get the eyeballs, get the biggest personalities on their platform. And I think that is exactly what Ninja did for us as streamers and content creators. Now, that being said, guys, so what really happened to Ninja? Well, I'll tell you what happened. I mean, part of it might have been lucky. Part of it might have been just God-given talent without being having a pro background. But I really think what happened and what changed, what made Ninja wasn't, I mean, obviously it was Halo. You got to give props to his game, right? But what made him the figure that he is today is Fortnite, and it was his work ethic more than anything. His work ethic, his team behind him, that being like his wife, getting him these incredible deals and just busting his ass for as long as he needed to, grinding hours upon hours of Fortnite to become the biggest, because a lot of people thought that there was a time that Summit 1G was going to be, you know, kind of stay at the top, be that guy. But what Ninja did was he exceeded all expectation on the platform, and you know, it actually made guys like Summit and other streamers out there, it made them not be complacent with what they had. It was like, okay, we can get more, we can do more to kind of promote and grow our brand. And Ninja created this incredible brand. I mean, it's unbelievable, right? He's got shoe deals, he's got, you know, I mean, PC deals, and like, you know, a deal with Red Bull, and I mean, it just on and on and on, guys. It's huge. It's massive. What Ninja did is massive for us as gamers, and for the next generation of gamers. I mean, it's huge. It's massive what this means for gaming. Not right now necessarily, even though it was really big when it first happened, because you had Courage move from Twitch over to YouTube. You had Shroud come to Mixer. You had, I mean, the movement was crazy. Nick A went from YouTube to Twitch. And so the streaming wars are in full effect. But what Ninja did and what happened, he gave us as gamers, content creators, streamers, a voice. He gave us showed us the opportunities that are out there. And we'll always be indebted to Ninja for that. Never forget that, guys, that this guy did so much for gaming and is continuing to do so. So, guys, what the big lesson that you could learn from this is that if you work hard enough, anything is attainable. And we're all kind of trying to do this thing, right? We would all love to make a living off of gaming. It's something that we would all love to do. And people like Ninja, personalities and creators and esports pros and stuff, are kind of paving a path forward for others to kind of follow in those footsteps or even branch off into their own paths. And that is a beautiful thing. But let me know what you guys think about it. What do you guys think about Ninja moving from Twitch to Mixer and creating the power to the players in a way that we have never seen before in gaming? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and let's have a real conversation about it. Our next topic is about Crysis, guys. A game, series, and a franchise in which I have absolutely loved, and I would love to see a continuation of this franchise. Well, today, guys, I want to talk about what happened to Crysis. Like, what happened to this beloved franchise and series, and where could it be going in the future, and is there a future for Crysis? So let's talk about it. So guys, we've already talked a little bit about Crysis and its future here on the YouTube channel, but I wanted to talk about Crysis from a, you know, a kind of a different perspective as to some of the announcements that have come out, which there have been some announcements that have come out, but it's been a long time ago. And a lot of these rumors and things of that nature kind of lead me to believe that maybe Crysis is in a limbo state, as in right now it might not be being worked on, maybe it is, but I think if there was a future for Crysis, it could be really bright. So guys, you had all three Crysis games. Even though we had the Crysis Warhead, obviously, that came out in 2008, which, of course, I always forget about Crysis Warhead because it was one of those that I just never really played that much. So we're dating back to 2007 here, guys, when the first Crysis came out, and this article was written, of course, by Wikipedia. And so here's the thing. You had Crysis in 2007, and then you had Crysis Warhead in 2008. 2 years later, you had Crysis 2, right? And then, of course, a couple of years after that, you had Crysis 3. So really, you had, you know, a year between Crysis 1, Crysis 2. You had 3 years between Crysis Warhead and Crysis 2, and then a couple of years between that. And then the thing about it is, guys, is that you really thought that there was a possibility that there was going to be a continuation after Crysis 3. However, if we kind of look through this article, with Crysis 3 being the end of the Crysis trilogy, Crytek teased that the series would have a radical future. Yurley confirmed that the next installment would not be called Crisis 4, as he considered such a title misleading. On June 12, 2012, it was revealed that Crytek would focus only on free-to-play titles following the release of Crisis 3. So, here's the thing. Obviously, they weren't really just focusing on free-to-play games, because Hunt Showdown, their newest IP after Crisis 3, is not free-to-play. Now, it's had free-to-play weekends, but it is not a free-to-play title. What I will say about this is Crisis, as far as a new sequel, or just like a complete reboot, soft reboot, I should say, of the series, I think that a Crisis free-to-play game would be huge. Here's why. You look at games like Fortnite, Apex Legends. Those are games where it's free-to-play and, it's consistently evolving. Why couldn't Crisis be something like that? But maybe not necessarily a battle royale, but why couldn't it be a free-to-play first-person shooter? We haven't really seen that before. And I think something like that could be absolutely huge. I think Crytek would be smart to do that. Now, there have been rumors that Crisis, the free-to-play game, or the soft reboot game, is going to be coming and is being worked on right now, and it's going to be like the follow-up to Hunt Showdown as far as from the Crytek Studios. Now, nothing is really confirmed yet, guys. Crytek does a pretty good job of keeping things under wraps over at their studio, so I think that there's a possibility that we may see something in the next couple of years. I think what really happened, though, with the Crisis series, guys, is between Crisis 1 and Crisis 2, even you could even put Crisis Warhead in there, between those three titles, they did a pretty good job of, as far as, making good money. Crisis 3, though, did not do as well as what was thought to have, what they thought they were going to do, which is really unfortunate. It's an unfortunate ordeal. I don't know, I don't know really what the number was that they were trying to get to with the Crisis 3. However, what I'll say is this: I know that the Crisis games were very expensive to make. Obviously, guys, with that, the Crytek engine and the, just everything based around Crisis, it was just an expensive IP. And if you don't have sustainability there, as far as from a marketing perspective, or even just that word of mouth perspective and having players come back. I will say this: I played Crisis 2 the most out of any of the Crisis games, and I thought it was really great. I used to play it quite a bit. I thought it was a really fun multiplayer. It was a great story. I thought the soundtrack was incredible. Just overall, I loved Crisis 2. Crisis 3, I thought, was still really good. It just, for some reason, just wasn't as popular as Crisis 2 or even the first Crisis. And it's unfortunate, because I really think that this is a strong IP that should exist within gaming, without a doubt. So where is it headed at this point? Well, the last thing that we really heard, guys, was back in 2012. I guess it probably, it wasn't quite that long ago, because Crisis 3 came out in 2013. So it's been, we've wondered and have been wondering now for a while as to how good is this going to be, or how long are we going to have to wait for a new Crisis game? And it doesn't seem like there's a timetable here. My assumption is that Hunt Showdown's doing really good for Crytek, and they're probably going to continue that. But why not have a couple of IPs that are doing really good for a studio? I've always looked at, having multiple really good games is very smart for a studio. So I think Crytek would be smart to be working on a Crisis free-to-play game while also having Hunt Showdown, and make Crisis a first-person shooter free-to-play game, maybe have a BR. A Battle Royale Crisis game I think would be pretty cool. I really do. I think that would be something that could be really interesting, because of obviously, as your character, you got, shields and things of that nature as it is as a character. So why not have, it would just fit perfectly in the Battle Royale genre. At the same time, though, I want to still see a first-person shooter that, has, multiple different maps that you can play on. And, I think people would really enjoy it, because it was different, and it was like a futuristic shooter. I think that it would be popular nowadays if it were to ever come back. So I think what happened, guys, ultimately it really comes down to money. It really does. For a lot of titles that you haven't seen in a while, or you want to see a sequel to one of these titles that, whatever the title might be, if you haven't seen one for a while, most likely it's because of money, like it didn't make enough money, or just the reception wasn't that great on it. People don't want to see a sequel to it. But I think with Crysis, it really comes down to, I think, money, but also that Crysis 3 just wasn't as popular as the originals. And I also think that Crytek probably felt like, okay, we completed this trilogy. Let's move on to like Hunt Showdown, which is what they're working on now. And maybe we'll come back to Crysis in the future. It's hard to say, guys, but I would love to have a real conversation about it in the comment section below. Let's talk about it. Do you want to see a Crysis free-to-play game, or do you want to just see a continuation like a Crysis 4? Let me know what you guys think. Let's have a conversation about it. Our next topic of the day, guys, is going to be about Gears of War and the lack thereof of Gears of War viewership. And so I want to talk about this, guys, and kind of go in depth about it, because it's been something that's been bothering me now for a while. And it's just, honestly, guys, it's sad to me how the viewership of Gears of War is so low. But not only that, as far as following is concerned, as far as the amount of streamers, the amount of content creators that there are, there's just a real lack of everything in general. So let's talk about it. Guys, you obviously know that I am a huge fan of Gears of War. I've said this on multiple occasions, I'll say it again. The big three in gaming for me, and everyone's got their favorite games, right? The big three for me are Gears of War, Call of Duty, and StarCraft. And you can see in the background of all of my videos, guys, I have all three posters up of my three, favorite franchises, right? Gears, StarCraft, Call of Duty, okay? When one of those or multiple of those games, franchises, are not doing very good or reaching their full potential, it really bothers me. And there's obvious reasonings for these things, but I want to kind of talk about how, kind of not really focus so much on the developers and such, because we talked about that in the past. But I think that this is honestly, for Gears of War, self-inflicted by the community. So if you go on Twitch, right, you obviously can, search any of the games and you can see which games are doing, like how many followers there are, how many viewers there currently are, and things of that nature. On any given day right now in Gears of War, and Gears 5 in particular, you will see that Gears 5 at the time of this recording has about 330 viewers, okay? That's not that good, right? It's just not, it's not that great, right? Not very good, number one. And then number two is the followers of this game. It has 139,000 followers. So basically 140,000 followers, guys. That is not that many followers, especially for a title of the magnitude of Gears of War. Now, in comparison, if we go to Gears of War 4, okay, you'll see there's only 12 viewers on here, but of course this was the last iteration of Gears of War. It has 12 viewers currently, but it had 832,000 followers, a lot more. I mean, it was pushing 1 million followers in its life cycle. Gears 5 currently is on pace, because it's been out for a little while now. It's on pace to probably have, I would say, maybe 500,000 followers by the time Gears 6 comes out. And that's just not cutting it as a community, as a game. It's just not cutting it. Now, there are people who are certainly grinding Gears of War through everything, thick and thin. I enjoy, streaming Gears of War when I can. J Motions is a great streamer. You guys should definitely check him out. You guys should check out Jippery McLeod. But even all of these people who are streaming the game, look, I mean, they're passionate about the game, but the problem is there's not enough people streaming the titles, guys. I mean, you know, when you kind of can go down a list and it doesn't take very long to start, you know, going down that list, obviously that tells you there's not enough people streaming it. There's not enough people creating YouTube content on Gears of War. It's just an obvious thing, guys, and I think that it's a very untapped game, I guess you could say, where many people, if you enjoy Gears of War at least, we obviously don't want you to stream something you don't enjoy, but if you enjoy Gears of War, stream Gears 5, because you could really build something special on Gears of War, because when you look at these numbers, there's obviously 139,000 followers, so there are still over 100,000 people that are, you know, that are following the game, but yet there's only not even 1,000 viewers. That's huge. I mean, that could really, that could be, you know, I mean, you could really build something special from the Gears of War community if you enjoy Gears of War. So if you're a Gears of War player, think about streaming. If you are a streamer and you like Gears of War, why are you not streaming Gears of War? Because, man, there's a massive opportunity here. And then on top of all of that, it's not only helping yourself, but it's also helping the game grow if you want to see continued iterations of the Gears of War franchise. Now, in comparison, guys, my other favorite game, my other favorite franchises is Call of Duty. And if you go to the most recent Call of Duty, that being Modern Warfare, you can see that we have that Call of Duty has about 10,000 viewers right now, which is pretty good. It's not great. I still think that Call of Duty has a massive amount of opportunity of growth, but it has 1.7 million followers right now, pushing 2 million followers, right? And this game came out, came out after Gears 5 and has amassed that many followers. Now, this is obvious that Call of Duty and Gears of War, the personalities on Call of Duty, there's so many more of them than there are in Gears of War. But what I'm trying to get at here, guys, is that Gears 5 and Gears of War in general has a ton of potential, a ton of untapped potential, right? Me as a content creator and as a YouTuber, as a streamer, I stream Gears when I can, but I more so make YouTube content. So I love making Gears of War YouTube content when I can. I think one of the most important things, though, guys, is actually streaming, streaming Gears of War, which is something that I try to do when I can. I certainly love playing Gears of War. I love Gears 5. I think it's a great game. This video and this portion of the show, though, guys, I really want to stress to all of you that there's an opportunity here. If you love playing video games and you love Gears of War, you should be streaming Gears 5. And there's just no question about it. And if you go to Mixer, the viewership is even lower on Mixer than it would be on Twitch. So all I'm saying is if you just stream on Mixer, which is, of course, an Xbox owns Mixer, so, stream it. Like, just do it, guys. If you love making content on YouTube and you're a Gears fan, Gears of War content might be the thing for you to make some content around. Obviously, guys, I'll always say this, though. I will always be an advocate for creating content based around multiple games. Don't just stick with one game. Kind of branch out, do multiple different games, talk about multiple different games, play a few different games. But, I'm not saying you only have to stream one game, because me personally, I stream Gears and COD. Those are the two games that I stream. So, and every once in a while I'll stream something else, just to kind of freshen things up. But if you stream, a few different titles, you're kind of, you're doing a good job, because not only are you kind of sticking, kind of keeping your options open, but it's also so that you don't get burned out from just playing one game for too long. So I think, though, guys, what I'm trying to just say is that there's opportunity in Gears of War. There's opportunity in Call of Duty. I think Gears of War, though, is so underappreciated. It is unbelievable how this is a game that is getting 330 viewers at any given time throughout the day. I only see it jump over 1,000 viewers when there's a tournament going on. And that's pretty much it, though, guys. There's so much potential in Gears of War. And I want to help be a part of the growth of it, and try to motivate you guys. If you're into Gears of War, don't just sit around on the sidelines and, complain to the developers. Do something about it. Play the game, build a following, and you just never know where it could go. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it, guys. But I believe that Gears 5 is very underappreciated. It's undervalued. If I could buy stock in it, I would, because man, it's so undervalued. Sure, is it the best, Gears of War game ever made? I think it's actually up there, but even if most people don't think it is, it's still Gears of War. This is a franchise that was built, a while back. Dates back to the Xbox 360, and it's been a strong IP ever since. So why wouldn't you believe at some point or another that it's going to just keep going up? That's just my personal take on it, guys. I'd love to hear your take, though. Let me know in the comment section below. The next topic I want to talk about, guys, is about Doom and Doom Eternal and the possibilities of what a Doom esports scene would look like, because this is a game or a franchise in which I believe that really could have a lot of potential in a first-person shooter esports scene, even though they're changing up how we play the multiplayer of Doom Eternal. But I still think that there's a real potential here for esports. So let's talk about it. In an article that was written by Brad Bollinger from Daily Esports, as to writing an article about why Doom Eternal could conquer the FPS scene. Doom was released in 2016 to critical acclaim, silencing the franchise's critics once and for all. Its single-player campaign was praised as one of the best first-person experiences in decades. That said, it's also a game in a franchise that boasted once upon a time a very competitive multiplayer scene. This is unfortunate because if there's any area of Doom that warrants criticism, it's the multiplayer features. It released with missing features, rampant cheating, and many limitations. Many players felt that Doom's multiplayer was designed as an afterthought. The boys over at ID Software appear to have taken note of this and are promising a far better multiplayer experience in Doom Eternal. So, Doom Eternal's Invasion's a major game changer with the upcoming Doom Eternal is its invasion mechanic. Similar to mechanics present in the Dark Souls franchise, this allows players to assume the form of a demon and invade other players' single-player campaigns. Players can even team up to form Slayer killing groups, which brings an interesting new dynamic to online first-person shooter play. There's a lot of potential in competitive gaming with invasions. For example, matches that pit a Slayer trying to complete a campaign against a horde of would-be saboteurs would make for great entertainment. So what I think here, guys, really quick, right off the bat, when it comes to, Doom, I feel as a scene, I do think that there is a very heavy presence of multiplayer, players who absolutely love this game from a multiplayer perspective. And you also can think of games like Quake, where that's been a game that's been, an esport for quite some time. And I think Doom could really have that same feel, so to speak. The strange thing to me is with them getting rid of deathmatch and other, game modes. Obviously, this article was written a while back, guys. Obviously, Doom Eternal has already been released. But when you think about it, some of those game modes that were taken away from multiplayer in replace of, some new modes is very interesting to me. Now, could that mean that this wouldn't be an esport and could be an esport? It sounds like from different recent articles and from interviews from some of the developers that esports really isn't in their, in front of their mind. It's kind of in the back of their mind at this point. And I don't know. I feel like this is a series that really deserves to have a esports scene. One thing the gameplay in Doom Eternal indicates about the invasion system is the possible presence of lives. This could introduce an additional challenge to multiplayer play, with players potentially having limited chances to complete a mission. With the proper balance, this could see the single-player campaign becoming a deathmatch in and of itself. The devs also promise that this mode will delve further into Doom lore, offering additional incentive to rip and tear with your buddies against or as the Slayer himself. So, those are a couple, those are a couple of things here, guys. What else is new with Doom Eternal? Doom Eternal also promises a lot of new elements and features that lend further excitement to its multiplayer potential. The first major upgrade that can be seen is one of movement. The Slayer can now quick dash, similar in nature to mechanics in other first-person shooter games, to avoid attacks or projectiles. The player can also now swing on nearby objects and climb certain terrain to cover more ground in a shorter amount of time. There is also a grappling hook in the Slayer's arsenal now. This allows players to attach themselves to surfaces and demons to rapidly close the distance. These changes could make for some very quick-paced multiplayer gameplay. So, I will admit this. Very fast-paced gameplay, right, with Doom Eternal, it feels like. However, my one concern about there being, as far as Doom Eternal's concerned, some of the new game modes with multiplayer, not that I don't think they're good ideas, because I do. A lot of it reminds me of like Evolve and some of those games, even like somewhat of like Hunt Showdown. But as far as esports goes, I feel that the esports scene needs to be based around like deathmatch or, team deathmatch. Just because I feel like that's something that people will be able to understand a little bit easier than, say, some of these other new game modes. But it sounds like the developers over at ID aren't very interested in the potential of esports, which I think every title out there should have a thought in their mind, like, could we make this an esport, because it just helps grow your scene. But that being said, I don't know, guys. It's hard to say. We'll have to kind of wait and see as time goes on. As time goes on, we might actually start seeing more game modes being added to the playlist of Doom Eternal, and I hope we see that. And I would love to see an esports scene for Doom Eternal, because I want to see Doom get bigger and bigger over time as well. What do you guys think about it? Let me know in the comment section below, and let's have a real conversation about it. Our next topic is going to be about Call of Duty and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare in particular, guys. I wanted to talk about Infinite Warfare because we've talked about some of the sequels to some of the other Call of Duty games in the past that we would, like to see or not so much like to see, like we've talked about in the past in Advanced Warfare 2, which is a game that I would not prefer to have. Obviously, having more Black Ops titles, more Modern Warfare titles, even like a World at War 2 would be kind of cool. But now today, we're going to talk about Infinite Warfare and an Infinite Warfare 2, or the potential of an Infinite Warfare 2, and what that would mean for Call of Duty, because as I've said in the past, guys, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare to Infinite Warfare, that stretch of time, mainly Black Ops 3 to Infinite Warfare, were the dark ages of Call of Duty, and now we got out of it. So would we ever go back to an Infinite Warfare? Like, would people want to go back to Infinite Warfare and actually revisit that franchise? Well, Tyler Fisher from Comic Book Gaming made an article, and one of the ex-developers says that Call of Duty Infinite Warfare 2 will never happen. Will Activision and Infinity Ward ever make Call of Duty Infinite Warfare 2? Well, according to one former developer, never. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare has to be one of the least liked Call of Duty games ever. As you may remember, at the time it was revealed, its trailer was the most disliked gaming video on YouTube ever. What was the issue? Did it look bad? No, it looked like Call of Duty. But the problem is it doubled down on a future setting, which was something the series was seemingly doing at that point, and something fans were getting very unhappy about it. That said, the game still sold really well, just like all Call of Duty games do. And as a result, it's not obvious whether Activision and Infinity Ward would ever be willing to revisit the specific sub-series with a sequel. However, while it may not be obvious to the rest of us, to the former creative strategist at Infinity Ward, Robert Bowling, who is now with EA, says Infinite Warfare 2 will never happen. He tweeted saying, "You will never get Infinite Warfare 2." Now, it's unclear whether or not Bowling knows something we don't, or whether he's just inferring as much. There's a good chance there's a little bit of both in play. Whatever the case, following Bowling's tweet, many hardcore fans of the series jumped in to share their opinion on the news and Infinite Warfare. There was a guy who says Infinite Warfare is so underrated. One of the best campaigns, and the multiplayer is pretty fun. The Dark Souls Ascend says it was a fun game, but no one wants Infinite Warfare 2. The campaign was so good, and the zombies in Space Sand was like an exploration in an amusement park. I don't want Infinite Warfare 2. It happened once. It's not what I'm looking forward to. So, just to talk about Aaron and what he said Infinite Warfare is so underrated. No, I don't think it's underrated. I think that Infinite Warfare, I actually liked it more than Black Ops 3. I thought Black Ops 3 would have been really good if it was boots on the ground. And Infinite Warfare, I think it would have even been better if it was boots on the ground. But, look, it's a part of Call of Duty history. And Infinite Warfare, I just don't think that we need to go back in time. Or I shouldn't say back in time. I should say, like, in the future now, we should not go back to resort to some of those games. Modern Warfare and Black Ops are great franchises overall. I think Black Ops, that series has kind of rewrited the ship in a good direction with Black Ops 4. But don't go back to Infinite Warfare. There's no reason for it when there was such huge backlash. And the campaign, I thought the campaign was not one of the best. It was okay, to say the least. I think all Call of Duty campaigns are good, but it was not one of the best. And no. The multiplayer, Leo Schmidt says, the multiplayer of Infinite was, but man, the campaign is easily my favorite of the franchise. Feels sad that everyone will remember this game as a complete fail when so much work and passion clearly went into its single player. Now, okay. The multiplayer, I thought, was better than the campaign, in my opinion. And the campaign, obviously, I think some of these people are coming into the franchise relatively, are more new to the franchise than not, because no one in their right mind, I don't think, would actually think Infinite Warfare has, like, the best campaign in the entire franchise. And then Adida says, that's sad to hear, easily my favorite COD campaign of all time. So, look, there's going to be some people who say that they really enjoyed the campaign. I think a lot of those people who are saying that, though, probably don't have they haven't been around the franchise that long. Maybe they came around when the jetpack era started with Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, or maybe right before that with Call of Duty Ghosts. But for us longtime fans of the franchise, we don't want to go back to jetpacks. I think that there are some people who wouldn't mind going back to jetpacks, but I think boots on the ground is Call of Duty. It's not boots in the air. And I don't think that going back is going to help us. Now, having game modes maybe within each of the Call of Duty games where you have jetpacks, maybe that's kind of cool. Even, Blackout has it where you can, you have jetpacks and such. But putting it into the multiplayer, or even into the story mode, just leave that to Titanfall, leave it to Halo, just leave it alone. Interestingly, according to Bowling, Infinity Ward's Call of Duty this game year, which is being pitched as one of the best ever in the series, will be set in modern times. In other words, it's definitely not a sequel to Infinite Warfare. So obviously, guys, this article was written before Modern Warfare had been announced. And what I'll say is this. Modern Warfare, and I've said this on multiple occasions, is the best campaign of any of the Call of Duties I've ever personally played. I thought the campaign for Modern Warfare was unbelievable. It was so gritty, so, it just felt you kind of connected with the characters so well, and it was unbelievable. So, like, when a lot of some of these people are saying that Infinite Warfare's campaign was so good, and I'll always say this, guys, Infinity Ward does I believe they have the best campaign games ever in the Call of Duty franchise, whereas Treyarch has the best multiplayer experiences with, like, Black Ops. But Modern Warfare overall, I think, is an incredible game. I think overall it is so well done, and I'm so glad we didn't get an Infinite Warfare 2, personally. Now, do I think we ever will get an Infinite Warfare 2? Here's the thing, is that I'm never going to say never, because as time goes on, guys, if we get a new Call of Duty game every single year, say for the next 10, 15, 20 years, you can't say that they would never go back and look at an Infinite Warfare 2 or like a Ghost 2 or, these are IPs sub-series within like a sub-franchise within the overall franchise of Call of Duty that you can never say that they would never go back to it. I don't think it would be smart for Call of Duty to do that, and I don't think they will. But you can never say never. They very well may go back to Infinite Warfare at some point in the future. You just don't know. There's been talks of it, obviously. Infinite Warfare, there's talks of it, of an Infinite Warfare 2. I don't think it's in the foreseeable future. I would say it's years down the road if it does happen, ever. But I think if Call of Duty's smart, and Activision smart, and we know they are. They're smart. These games are the best-selling games every year, so they obviously know what they're doing. My opinion is stick with Modern Warfare and Black Ops, and maybe every once in a while you kind of go back and forth between those two, and then when people kind of get sick of those, maybe switch it up, go to like a World War II setting or, something of that nature. But I think always having a Modern Warfare game where it's like a modern or maybe slightly futuristic, and then with Black Ops, having that either futuristic or you go back in the past, like there's been rumor of like Cold War and things of that nature. If you do that, you really are setting yourself up for kind of hitting both crowds, the futuristic people or the people who love futuristic or more modern day warfare, and then the people who like playing the games that, are based in the past. But let me know what you guys think about this. Would you be interested in seeing an Infinite Warfare 2? You heard one man's thoughts. What are your thoughts on it? Our last topic of the day, guys, is about Infamous, a game and a franchise that was really popular for a period of time, and then all of a sudden it just kind of went off the face of the earth, and no one has seen a sequel to Infamous in a while, over 5 years at this point. And so what happened to Infamous, and where could Infamous 4 be at this point? So let's talk about it. So guys, in an article that was written by Paul Vigil from Gaming Bolt, he says, once a premier PlayStation franchise, the superhero-based series hasn't seen a new entry for over 5 years. It may seem like a long time ago, but the Infamous series was rather modestly famous. It was a symbol of the popularity of open-world action gaming back when that genre type was particularly popular, and the ability to dictate the moral course of the games with player actions both worked together to make players more involved in their playthrough, but also to give players a variety of options in how they wanted to play. Infamous Second Son was one of the titles unveiled at E3 2013, the same year that held one of their most important press conferences, the one that officially announced the PS4. Such was the franchise's popularity that it led to the appearance of major franchise lead Cole McGrath in Street Fighter V, Tekken, one of the most high-profile fighting game crossovers ever when it launched. Speaking of fighting games, as you would expect, Cole McGrath also made an appearance as a playable character in Sony's own fighting game, PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. Infamous is a franchise that even has comics to its name, and at one point a movie was planned for Infamous, even if word of that now goes back to about 10 years ago. And yet the circumstances of the Infamous series are not as they were back then. The most recent title, Infamous First Light, was released back in 2014. We are inclined to ask, what the hell happened to the Infamous series? So obviously, guys, I think that one of the big things is that, yeah, they were going to, this was going to become a full-blown franchise. We're talking a movie was considered to be made from Infamous, and they've made a number, if you really think about it, they've had different expansions on each of the games, and, this is a franchise, I think, that kind of was up there for me with Prototype at the time. I really enjoyed Prototype a little bit more than Infamous, but I thought Infamous was a really cool idea and concept, and actually, Infamous was actually way more popular than Prototype. Infamous games are made by Sucker Punch. Formerly an independent studio, they have worked exclusively with Sony since 2000 and were formally acquired by the company in 2011. To their name, Sucker Punch has two major franchises. The first three games in the Sly Cooper series when they originally released on the PS2, and the Infamous series with their newest title, Ghost of Tsushima, which was announced at 2017's Paris Games Week. The Infamous series genre type is that of open-world action gaming with the three major titles, Infamous, Infamous 2, and Infamous Second Son, incorporating a morality system called Karma that affects the proceedings of the game on both major and minor scales. Karma is a system measured along the continuum of good and evil, with good representing actions that promote the welfare of others and evil representing selfish actions. Karma also changes the appearance of protagonists Cole and Delsin along with their attacks. We'll start with the first Infamous game releasing on the PS3 in 2009. It stars series lead Cole McGrath, who is a courier in the fictional Empire City when we first meet him, as he suddenly finds himself with electricity-based superpowers following his opening of a package. He struggles with his newfound powers, dealing with society around him and making choices as to what he should do with his powers. And that first game was really the one that I liked a lot. I really enjoyed the first game because it was like kind of new and you're just starting to figure, things out about your character, and I thought they did a really good job with the first game. And I'll say this, guys, I think that Sucker Punch, now that they're working on Ghost of Tsushima, I'm going to say this, that where would an Infamous 4 be at this point? I think that Infamous 4, guys, is a game that could be coming after Ghost of Tsushima because, man, Ghost of Tsushima looks absolutely incredible. Now, obviously, if there's a ton of success with Ghost of Tsushima, Sucker Punch may continue that franchise in replace of Infamous, which would be unfortunate. I would love to see them do both franchises, kind of go back and forth. I think that would be awesome, but we'll have to kind of wait and see on that. Now, developed across 3 years with a team of 60 people, Sucker Punch sought a new direction in their games after the polished slickness and cartoony fun of the Sly Cooper series. Infamous was notably influenced by the concept of superheroes and the origin story, with the developers wanting to create a game that followed the progress of an everyday citizen such as Cole, as his powers allow him to grow into something more. The open world design of the game enhances the feeling of the environment being directly influenced by Cole's actions, with the Karma system adding definition, structure, consequences, and results to one's actions. The game released a great critical reception on average, praise particularly singled out for mission progression in the Karma system and the many ways it impacts gameplay and the environment. So, you had the first Infamous game was followed up by Infamous 2 in 2011, also releasing for the PS3. Once again featuring Cole McGrath as protagonist, he sets out to stop another super-powered human known as the Beast in the fictional location of New Marais. The game is notable for featuring a replacement voice actor for Cole, Eric Layden, who voiced Cole in every subsequent appearance. Infamous 2 is also significant for introducing a new feature, UGC missions, with UGC standing for user-generated content, allowing for people to make their own missions and share them with others, especially helpful to keep the gaming experience fresh once the game is finished. The developers felt the pressure to include multiplayer and had considered the idea of adding in cooperative play, but it didn't make sense to them and their goal of keeping the experience fresh. So, that's the next thing. They decided not to do multiplayer, which I think was a pretty big disappointment and something that I think that they could have done, which would have been really cool. Kind of a cool concept, but they didn't do it, and it's unfortunate that they didn't do it because now, obviously we haven't seen a game in a while, and I think part of the reason might have been because as things kind of changed, the multiplayer, people wanting to get into multiplayer and play multiplayer-based games, having that option is always something really smart in my opinion. Now, obviously there's games like nowadays that are the kind of the outlier, Death Stranding and Spider-Man and, Ghost of Tsushima, and, there's a number of games, guys, that don't have multiplayer that have done really well, even like God of War, right? But I think overall, when you think of just an average franchise or average series, you really need to have multiple reasons for players to come back. So, the ending of Infamous 2 concludes the story of Cole McGrath with finality, and when Infamous Second Son, the next proper Infamous game, would release in 2014, it would feature a new protagonist in Delsin Rowe. The game itself takes place 7 years after the ending of Infamous 2, which saw the elimination of many superpowered humans and the establishment of a U.S. government police force meant to wipe out the superhumans, designating them as terrorists. The location this time is a real-world one, Seattle, unlike the previous fictional locations, however inspired by the real world they may be. As a major title, Second Son would bring back the karma system. It was in the planning stages as far back as 2010, before the first Infamous game would have much time to breathe after release. Sucker Punch was already planning for an Infamous on the PS4. They routinely were in contact with Sony system architect Mark Cerny, one of several development teams that kept contact with Sony during the design and creation of the PS4. So, here's what might have happened. What really happened with Infamous, I think, was with Second Son. So while the dev team count reached to more than 100 staff this time, it's still small enough to allow for a sense of streamlining and direction. Second Son achieved million seller status within 9 days of launch, the best commercial record of any Infamous title, and noteworthy even on its own. While its critical average was lower than past games, it still maintains a solidly good standing. Shortly, though, after the development of Second Son, Sucker Punch would begin work on Infamous First Light, a prequel to Second Son, and releasing in 2014, a few months after Second Son. It stars one of the major characters of Second Son, Fetch, a human with superpowers who has been captured by the U.S. government force that is hunting people like her. A great deal of the game is Fetch recounting her story to the lead antagonist of Second Son, leading up to the introduction scene of Second Son. The game released to modestly positive reception on average. For the most part, the character of Fetch is well liked, but the title is also seen as a more of the same Infamous title, with issue being taken also with the game's perceived lack of difficulty. So, this is how far the franchise has gone and how far it seems it will go. There's no hint of another Infamous title being planned, and with Sucker Punch hard at work on Ghost of Tsushima for the PS4, with word of this title being development through publicly unnamed at the time, first breaking on December 2015. Sucker Punch has a history of working on games with comparatively small development teams with the ambition of delivering action experiences of a great scale. With Ghost of Tsushima release date still unknown, it's hard to think Sucker Punch is planning to juggle two major projects at once. To celebrate the 10-year anniversary of the first Infamous game's launch, Sucker Punch tweeted out an informative thread providing ample background on the first game through video clips and text. That being said, it's entirely possible that another new Infamous game could happen once Ghost of Tsushima is completed, though Sucker Punch may be watching to see how Ghost of Tsushima is received both critically and commercially, seeing as it's their most recent title in a few years. One might be inclined to think that with Sucker Punch's relative dormance, Sony may be watching the studio as well. Do you think that all necessary stories in Infamous have been told, or do you want to see more? So, here's what I'll say, guys. Infamous, I believe it's a franchise that I think it should coexist with all the different other games that are out there. I mean, I don't see why not. It's a pretty cool franchise, right? And I think that the way they did it though was a little bit weird with Infamous Second Son, and because I remember, some of the expansions that came out for these games, I almost thought that they were new games altogether. Like, I thought it was like a new addition to the franchise. Like, I didn't think that it was, and that's what got me confused as a player or a gamer who enjoyed Infamous. I didn't like the second one as much as the first one. I thought that, the first one was the best. The second one I liked more than the third one. I thought that they progressively got a little bit worse in my opinion. I think that if they were to go back to it, do a soft reboot. Do a soft reboot on the PS5 and, add multiplayer. I think that would be really great. And, maybe go back. You don't have to do, go back to like Cole McGrath, you can kind of, start with fresh characters and stuff. But I think that even bringing back Cole McGrath would be smart, possibly, because he was the face of the franchise. And so, doing that and making like kind of a soft reboot, I think would be a really great idea for Sucker Punch, because, Ghost of Tsushima, I'm predicting it's going to do very well. It looks incredible. The graphics are amazing. I think it's like different as well. I think people are going to really like Ghost of Tsushima, but I think Infamous, I mean, why not come back to it at some point? Obviously, that option is there. Maybe Sucker Punch felt like they did everything that they wanted to with Sucker Punch and now, or with Infamous, and now they want to move on to something else. That being like Ghost of Tsushima, maybe they want to make a few of those games now. It's hard to say, guys, but that's kind of like what happened with Infamous. I think that really, at the end of the day, I really think the reason why they didn't make an Infamous 4 at this point is simply because Sucker Punch probably wanted to work on something new, something fresh. They worked on, Infamous for a period of time, and now they wanted to work on something different, and Ghost of Tsushima is exactly that. That's not saying that they don't want to come back to that franchise at some point or another. They just want to, kind of work on this for a while. It's kind of similar to like Crytek. Crytek worked on the Crysis games for a number of years, and now they moved on to Hunt Showdown. So there's nothing wrong with that either. They moved on to another game. There's no saying that they're going to come back at some point, but that option will always probably be there for these studios, and that's a beautiful thing, and hopefully Infamous does come back at some point in the future. But what do you guys think? Do you guys want to see a continuation of the Infamous franchise? Did you enjoy it? Did you like Infamous more or Prototype more? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below, and let's have a real conversation about it. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.